In the early years of the internet, anonymity felt like a promise. A new kind of freedom seemed to exist beyond borders, beyond governments, beyond consequences. Behind encrypted layers and hidden networks, identities could dissolve into usernames, and transactions could move without names, faces, or histories attached to them. In 2011, somewhere behind a laptop screen, one young man believed he had discovered the ultimate expression of that freedom. He built a marketplace that could not be found on Google, could not be traced by ordinary investigators, and could not be shut down by traditional law enforcement. It operated silently, invisibly, and at a scale no one had imagined possible. Within months, thousands of users were logging in daily. Within years, billions of dollars would pass through its encrypted channels. To its creator, and it was proof that technology had finally outpaced authority. But while the world saw an untouchable digital empire, somewhere inside government offices, analysts had already begun noticing something unusual. A faint pattern, a small inconsistency, a single thread that, if followed patiently, could unravel everything. Long before its owner realized it, investigators were quietly watching, documenting and waiting for the precise moment when invisibility would fail completely. In February 2011, a website quietly appeared on a part of the internet most people had never heard of. It could not be accessed through normal browsers. It did not appear in search results. To enter, users needed special software designed to hide their identity and location by routing their connection through layers of encrypted networks. This hidden environment was known as the Tor network, often called the dark web. The website called itself Silk Road. At first glance, it looked surprisingly ordinary. It had product listings, seller profiles, customer reviews, and a familiar checkout system. But what made it extraordinary and deeply alarming was what it allowed people to buy and sell. Illegal drugs, forged documents, hacking tools, and other black market services were openly listed, all protected by anonymity. Every transaction on Silk Road was conducted using Bitcoin, a relatively new digital currency at the time. Because Bitcoin addresses were not tied directly to real names, users believed their financial activity was untraceable. This combination of encrypted access and anonymous payments created what seemed like the perfect digital black market. Within a year, the platform had thousands of active vendors and customers across dozens of countries. Millions of dollars were moving through the system every month. To law enforcement agencies monitoring internet crime, it represented something unprecedented, a global criminal marketplace operating entirely online, without physical borders or traditional organizational structure. But as the platform grew rapidly, analysts inside federal cybercrime units began noticing unusual patterns in online discussions. A hidden network had become too large to remain invisible. Investigators quietly started collecting fragments of data, cross-referencing timestamps, tracing communication trails, and watching how digital behavior repeated itself. None of it revealed a name yet, but a trail had clearly begun to form beneath the surface. Years before Silk Road ever existed, Ross Ulbricht was not known as a criminal. He was known as a quiet, intelligent young man with a strong academic record and an intense interest in science and economics. Growing up in Texas, he excelled in school, eventually earning a degree in physics and later pursuing graduate studies focused on materials science. To friends and professors, he appeared thoughtful, curious, and deeply idealistic about the future of technology. But alongside his scientific interests, Ulbricht developed a strong fascination with political philosophy. He became particularly drawn to libertarian ideas, a belief system that emphasized individual freedom, minimal government control, and free markets operating without regulation. He spent years reading about economic theories that argued society would function more efficiently if individuals could trade freely without institutional interference. Over time, these ideas evolved from abstract beliefs into something more personal. He began imagining how technology might create a real-world system that embodied those principles. By 2010, Ulbricht was experimenting with entrepreneurial projects, most of which failed to gain traction. Privately, he wrote in online forums and personal journals about wanting to build something meaningful, a platform that could demonstrate the power of unrestricted digital commerce. The concept slowly took shape, a marketplace where people could buy and sell anything anonymously, outside the reach of governments and traditional law enforcement. When he finally launched Silk Road, Ulbricht adopted the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, a fictional identity designed to separate the platform's creator from his real-world self. Over time, the persona grew stronger than the individual behind it. The more the marketplace expanded, the more Ulbricht began to see himself not just as an entrepreneur, but as a visionary shaping a new kind of economic freedom. And with each successful transaction, his confidence in digital invisibility grew deeper. By late 2011, Silk Road had grown far beyond what its creator originally imagined. Thousands of users were logging in daily, and online discussions about the hidden marketplace began appearing across internet forums. While the site itself remained inaccessible to ordinary search engines, its existence was no longer completely secret. Fragments of conversation, mentions of anonymous drug purchases, encrypted transactions, and unusually reliable delivery networks started catching the attention of law enforcement analysts who monitored emerging cybercrime trends. At first, the marketplace seemed almost impossible to trace. The Tor network masked user locations by routing data through multiple encrypted nodes across the world. Bitcoin transactions added another layer of complexity, as funds moved through digital wallets without direct ties to real identities. For investigators accustomed to tracking physical shipments, bank records, or communication intercepts, this was an entirely new challenge. There was no central office to raid, no organizational hierarchy to infiltrate, and no obvious leader to identify. Instead, investigators shifted their strategy toward digital behavior analysis. Rather than attempting to break encryption, they focused on patterns, how users communicated, when transactions occurred, and how the platform evolved over time. Specialized cybercrime units from multiple federal agencies began quietly collaborating, pooling technical expertise and intelligence resources. Their work was slow, methodical, and largely invisible to the public. Gradually, analysts discovered something subtle but significant. In early online discussions promoting Silk Road, the same writing style, phrasing patterns, and posting timelines appeared repeatedly across different forums. It was not enough to reveal a name, but it suggested a single individual might be behind multiple anonymous accounts. For investigators, this represented the first tangible thread, and in long-term cyber investigations, even the smallest thread could eventually lead to a much larger unraveling. As Silk Road expanded, it evolved into something far more sophisticated than a simple anonymous marketplace. Its interface mirrored legitimate e-commerce platforms, complete with vendor profiles, customer ratings, dispute resolution systems, and secure payment escrow. Sellers built reputations based on reliability, while buyers left detailed feedback about product quality and delivery speed. This structure created a level of trust rarely seen in traditional black markets, allowing the platform to grow rapidly without centralized enforcement or physical oversight. At the center of this system was an automated escrow process. When a buyer placed an order, a payment was held temporarily by the platform until the product was confirmed delivered. Only then were funds released to the seller. This mechanism minimized fraud and strengthened user confidence, encouraging more transactions and attracting new participants from across the world. Over time, Silk Road became a self-sustaining digital ecosystem, operating continuously without requiring direct interaction between its creator and individual users. The scale of activity quickly became enormous. Thousands of product listings appeared across multiple categories, including narcotics, counterfeit identification, and specialized cybercrime tools. Vendors operated from dozens of countries, shipping items internationally through standard postal systems that were difficult to monitor. Transactions were processed entirely in Bitcoin. And as cryptocurrency adoption increased, the total volume of financial movement surged. Within a few years, investigators estimated that hundreds of millions of dollars in transactions had passed through the platform. For Ross Ulbricht, operating under the identity of Dread Pirate Roberts, the success reinforced his belief that Silk Road represented a new economic frontier. He communicated with users through encrypted messaging, issued operational directives to moderators, and maintained strict rules designed to keep the platform stable and profitable. Over time, he became increasingly confident that his layered anonymity, Tor routing, encrypted communication, and cryptocurrency transactions made him effectively untraceable. But beneath this expanding empire, investigators were steadily mapping its digital infrastructure. They were forming a detailed behavioral profile that would eventually point toward the person behind the screen. By 2012, multiple federal agencies had quietly formed a coordinated task force focused entirely on Silk Road. Investigators from cybercrime units, financial intelligence divisions, and narcotics enforcement began sharing data through secure channels. Rather than attempting to shut the marketplace down immediately, they adopted a longer strategy. Their objective was not only to dismantle the platform, but also to identify and prosecute the individual responsible for its operation. That required patience and precision. One of the earliest breakthroughs came from analyzing public internet forums. Months before Silk Road launched, a user had posted about creating an anonymous marketplace using Tor and Bitcoin. The writing style, technical descriptions, and timing closely matched later promotional posts connected to Silk Road. Investigators compared metadata, timestamps, and linguistic patterns, gradually linking multiple online accounts to a single behavioral profile. While none of these accounts revealed a real identity, they provided a starting point for deeper analysis. Financial investigators focused on Bitcoin transactions flowing through the platform. Although cryptocurrency addresses were anonymous, they were permanently recorded on a public ledger. That by tracking large transaction clusters and identifying exchange points where digital currency was converted into traditional money, analysts could observe movement patterns. Over time, they noticed certain wallets repeatedly interacting with Silk Road's escrow system in ways that suggested administrative control rather than normal user activity. At the same time, undercover agents gained access to the marketplace itself. Operating as buyers and sellers, they observed internal communications, transaction workflows, and dispute resolutions. This allowed investigators to understand the platform's operational structure and identify specific behavioral habits of its administrator. The individual behind Dread Pirate Roberts communicated at consistent hours, used distinct phrasing patterns, and responded rapidly to technical issues, indications of a single primary operator rather than a distributed team. The most critical lead emerged when analysts connected early Silk Road forum activity to an online profile using a real email address. That account belonged to Ross Ulbricht. It was a small oversight made years earlier, before Silk Road had grown into a global enterprise. For investigators, it provided the first direct link between the hidden marketplace and a specific individual. From that moment forward, surveillance intensified. Agents monitored Ulbricht's digital activity, tracked his travel patterns, and quietly prepared for the precise moment when he would be fully exposed. By the fall of 2013, investigators had gathered enough evidence to act, but timing was critical. Arresting Ross Ulbricht while he was away from his computer could risk losing the most important proof: the active administrative access to Silk Road itself. Agents needed to capture him in the exact moment he was logged into the platform, with the control panel open, so there would be no dispute about his role as its operator. On October 1st, 2013, Ulbricht entered a public library in San Francisco, a location he often used for internet access. Sitting quietly at a table, he opened his laptop and connected to Silk Road through encrypted networks. At that moment, he was logged into the administrative interface under the identity of Dread Pirate Roberts, managing site operations as he had done countless times before. Federal agents were already positioned inside the building, observing discreetly. The two undercover officers approached and staged a brief distraction nearby, creating a sudden commotion that drew Ulbricht's attention away from his screen. In that instant, a third agent moved swiftly behind him and secured the laptop before it could be closed or locked. The computer remained fully active, displaying administrative controls, private messages, and financial records linked directly to Silk Road operations. Within seconds, Ulbricht was taken into custody. There was no chase, no resistance, and no warning. The digital empire that had operated invisibly for years ended in a quiet library with a single open laptop and a moment of interrupted attention. Following Ross Ulbricht's arrest, authorities moved quickly to shut down Silk Road's infrastructure. Servers were seized, digital wallets were frozen, and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin were taken into government custody. For users around the world, the marketplace that had seemed untouchable vanished almost overnight. Listings disappeared, communication channels went silent, and the global network of vendors and buyers was suddenly left without its central hub. The legal consequences were severe. Ulbricht faced multiple federal charges, including narcotics trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering, and operating a continuing criminal enterprise. During the trial, prosecutors presented extensive digital evidence, including administrative logs, private messages, financial transaction records, and forensic analysis of his laptop. The case illustrated how modern cybercrime investigations relied less on breaking encryption and more on reconstructing behavioral patterns from digital activity. Public reaction to the case was deeply divided. Some viewed Ulbricht as a dangerous criminal responsible for enabling large-scale illegal trade. Others saw him as an ideological figure who had attempted to create a radical experiment in online freedom. This polarization reflected broader societal tensions about technology, privacy, and the limits of government authority in the digital age. For Ulbricht personally, the psychological impact was profound. The identity of Dread Pirate Roberts, once associated with control and influence, disappeared instantly after his arrest. On the transition from anonymous digital operator to publicly identified defendant marked a complete reversal of power. The system he believed he had outmaneuvered had, in the end, methodically reconstructed his identity through his own actions. Silk Road's collapse became a defining moment in the history of cybercrime enforcement. The story of Silk Road reveals a reality that continues to shape the modern digital world. Technology can create powerful layers of protection, but it cannot eliminate human behavior. Every system, no matter how advanced, ultimately depends on the choices, habits, and decisions of the people who operate within it. Ross Ulbricht did not lose control of his empire because encryption failed or because investigators broke through complex security systems. He was exposed because small patterns accumulated over time, tiny moments where convenience, confidence, and routine quietly replaced caution. Cybercrime investigations rarely succeed through dramatic breakthroughs. Instead, they rely on patience, persistence, and the ability to observe how digital actions repeat. In Ulbricht's case, years of invisible monitoring gradually transformed fragments of data into a clear identity. The same tools that promised anonymity, communication logs, transaction records, and behavioral patterns became the evidence that dismantled his operation. Today, the internet still offers unprecedented freedom, but Silk Road's collapse stands as a lasting reminder. In a connected world, invisibility is rarely permanent. Systems may appear beyond reach for years, yet the digital footprints people leave behind continue to accumulate, waiting for someone determined enough to follow them.